Well, cancel culture is now going after one of America's favorite children's books. Schools in Virginia's Loudoun County removing Dr. Seuss Books from its annual Read Across America event.
Dr. Seuss is apparently racist. Dr. Seuss has been cancelled by education authorities in the United States because of, and I quote here, strong racial undertones.
This sort of reminds me of the debate about in California, should we rename all these schools, spend all this money? We need to be focusing on the kids and getting them back into class so they can learn properly instead of some of this petty stuff, don't you think?
It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right.
I agree with you. This is a misfocus on the wrong priorities. As you mentioned, there are a lot of kids who are not only back in school but are behind, and particularly black and brown students who are, some of them, a year behind, and they may not be able to catch up. But you know, when I think about literacy and reading from a young age, those books, the Dr. Seuss books, were really a great tool in getting young people, kids, excited about learning and excited about reading. And there's so many lessons that unfortunately are going to be lost among students as these schools move away from using Dr. Seuss books.
And it's funny because in your notes you said that it was good enough for Barack and Michelle last year.
These are classics, and they should remain in the libraries. They should be praised and read over and over and over like we have for the last 20, 30 years.
Like, I'm still a big Dr. Seuss fan. You know, I was into that.
The fact that we're now going into woke academics as well with Shakespeare. I mean, they're now complaining that something like Shakespeare, you know, is filled with misogyny, racism, classism, and problematic, outdated ideas. Well, no kidding. Those were written in the late 1500s and 1600s. We can't keep erasing history.
The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason.
It's been a long time since I read those books, but it does sound a little bit far to me, although I do think that school systems should be allowed to update their curriculum. But I agree. Sometimes cancel culture goes too far. Yeah. And personally, I think of Donald Trump as the king of cancel culture. I mean, this weekend at CPAC, he called out several Republicans by name, including Liz Cheney, and said, hopefully
well, they did oppose it. Those folks did oppose him. I don't know how we went from one fish, red fish, blue fish to that, but well, I admire your ability to turn that into
cancel culture. It's gone too far. I truly agree with you. There are times where cancel culture has gone too far, and I think that Donald Trump is the king of it, as we saw this weekend. You know, he said that he's not going to create a third party. He's just going to get rid of the people that he doesn't like. And that is toxic cancel culture.
And so when you erase these stories, when you try to erase your history, you are unfortunately doomed to repeat it because young generations don't know what happened in the past and they can't make those forward-looking decisions based on that.
And when you look at the characters, they're all drawn very strangely, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you've got all kinds of goofy looking characters. Not once did I think, oh, this one's Asian, this one's black, this one is a male who's misogynistic. That has never come out of my children's mouths. It never even crossed my mind. And I think this person who's pointing this out or who led this study has way too much time on their hands.
May have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small.
And the more ludicrous this, you know, cancel culture becomes, the more that this is pushed by the left, it's only going to further embolden and help the right.
Yeah. So I think there's a lesson even in the idea of redemption and of changing our opinions when we understand that people should be embraced based on who they are, not what they look like.
And as we're teaching our children, shouldn't that be some of the lesson as we look back on history and mistakes that we've made or ways that we've found to be more progressive or to be better? Shouldn't we teach children about that instead of just ripping the books off the shelves? It's like when Amazon took Gone with the Wind off of it wouldn't sell the DVD anymore. I mean, how far are we going to go by erasing history, by canceling things to sort of send a message? There's other ways to send that message.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we've seen the end of cancel culture. Everything from Huckleberry Finn to Gone with the Wind, as you've mentioned. But there are so many literary works out there that that are important for a young person to read, to understand the historical context in which they were written, the ideas, the prevailing ideas at the time that they were written. Certainly, there are lots of books written, during the time in this country's history when people like me, who look like me, were owned by other people. That's a sad time of our history. But look at me now. I'm sitting on television talking to you. No one owns me. And so it shows the chart of freedom in our country and the embrace of change.
Like, I'm still a big Dr. Seuss fan. I was into that